Hello and welcome to the HBCU experience. We have an esteemed panel to discuss all of those things. So we're going to start off with an introduction. I will start with Larry Stewart, who of course is a Coppin State Eagle. So I have to start off with the Eagles of the MEAC conference. Larry Stewart was two-time Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference Player of the Year. He was Black College Player of the Year when he played at Coppin State. He also led the Eagles to their first NCAA tournament appearance. He ended up being the all-time leading rebounder in Coppin State history, third leading scorer, and of course had his jersey retired. He signed with the then Washington Bullets as an unsigned free agent in 1991, undrafted free agent, excuse me. Then he went on to become a member of the NBA All-Rookie team, the first undrafted player to do so. Ended up playing 4 seasons with the Bullets, went overseas, and is now currently an assistant coach at the University of Maryland, Eastern Shore. Now I'm going to move on to my dear friend Rick Mahorn, who sadly is a Pirate, went to Hampton University. Obviously, I'm just joking. He was a 3-time NCAA Division II All-American at Hampton. He set 18 school records, drafted by the Bullets, played 5 years for the Bullets, then went on to win an NBA championship with the Detroit Pistons as a player in 1989 and as an assistant coach with the Detroit Shock of the WNBA. So he's got championship rings galore. He is currently the radio analyst of the Detroit Pistons. We also have Mr. Sashi Brown, who is the Chief Planning and Operations Officer for Monumental Basketball. That includes the Washington Wizards, the Washington Mystics, the G League Go-Go, and 2K League's Wizards District Gaming. He's responsible for providing a platform to support the team operations, athlete development, innovation and strategic initiatives, and, this is my favorite part, the overall pursuit of championship. Mr. Sashi Brown. He was the Senior Vice President and General Counsel at the Jaguars in the NFL. And recently, before he came to the Wizards, he was an Executive Vice President of Football Operations for the Cleveland Browns. He had previously been General Counsel, started his career as an attorney after graduating from Harvard Law School, and he also, sadly, is a Pirate of Hampton University. Gentlemen, I appreciate you guys being here. We're going to dive right in, and we'll start with you, Rick. Why did you choose to play basketball at an HBCU?
The thing was, I wasn't chosen. It was more like wasn't a good basketball player. I think I just started playing my senior year, and Hampton was an opportunity that gave me a scholarship. I was more of the football player that was recruited high for football, but I wanted to play basketball. So the growth spurt, all that stuff just, brought me down to Hampton Institute at that time. And having the college, the college atmosphere there was just beautiful. I just thought going there was just a chance for me to learn how to be a basketball player, not necessarily learn and to get a great education.
Larry, how about you? What made you choose Coppin?
Yeah, I'm kind of sort of in the same lines. Like for me, I didn't really have a choice. I was a late bloomer when I started playing basketball, and my mentor at the time, he knew Coach Fang, who had just gotten hired at Coppin. So I didn't really have a choice. It was like, we drove down, we watched them play. We went to the campus and we drove back up to Philly, and John Arnett and my parents, they said, that's where you're going. So, that's how it kind of like happened for me. It really wasn't, I didn't have a choice in the matter.
Well, you ended up making the right decision.
Yes.
Sashi, how about you? What made you choose Hampton, Mr. Brown?
I think like Rick talked about, Hampton had a great academic program, a wonderful campus and overall experience. And also uniquely for me, I'm sure it's probably the same for my two colleagues here. HBCUs were a big time part of all of our family legacies. It wasn't when my father went to school, he didn't have a choice. HBCUs were the only option for him to go. He grew up in a segregated kind of Jim Crow South. And so from Lincoln to Kentucky State, where my grandfather was a basketball coach, to Howard, my dad started school in Hampton, and I had a number of family members that had matriculated there. It was a big piece of our family legacy that, made me understand that, going to an HBCU could get an awesome education and have an awesome college experience. And I was fortunate to have both at Hampton.
Rick, what did you love most about your HBCU experience?
Ooh, hey Sasha, I'm not gonna say it, but you know,
I already know. I already know.
because I know a lot of people from Cop and everybody used to come down to the yard. You know, it's the fabric of, to me, as I started to see, coming from Hartford, Connecticut, understanding that Tuskegee and Howard were the only black schools that were in the book, or Morehouse, that we saw or we read about, or Tuskegee Airmen and things to that nature. But when I went to Hampton, it was like, wow. After going to all black high school, I'm like, I'm at Hampton. This is all black, and it's a great experience because you learn to, you know, the culture, but you learn to get along. A lot of times, you know, you get into a situation where you're around a whole bunch of African Americans and everybody thinks it's going to be violence. But it was just this home gathering. It was like, wow, we had homecoming. All of a sudden, this big thing now in the big schools. Oh, we're having homecoming. But back in the day when it was a homecoming, you going like, you see all the people just walking around vibing. It was just a beautiful cultural experience that I said, you know what? This is just nice. And that's what my experience of being at Hampton, not only getting a great education, but also learning how to deal with people of color. A lot of times people just didn't know about being in a black school.
Yeah.
Larry, how about you?
Yeah. I mean, I just love the fact that it just felt like I never left home. You know, it was a family atmosphere on campus. You know, we were surrounded by people, you know, that came from similar backgrounds. And, you know, we just had tremendous support, you know, from administration, the faculty and the staff. And, you know, it was most definitely a family atmosphere. You know, everyone wanted you to succeed, you know, and everyone was there to help you, you know, to reach your goals, you know, and that was great about it. It was a great experience.
Sashi, how about you? What did you love the most about your experience at Hampton?
I think, you know, for me, it was an opportunity. I grew up in a predominantly white high school. And so when I got to Hampton's campus, to be able to get on campus with a bunch of young African-American folks and professors and administrators who were pushing you and challenging you and smarter than you and more ambitious than you, and to be able, like Rick said, at homecoming, see the success of graduates from years gone by come back to campus and tap into that network. I think that's probably the thing that sparked in me, you know, and it's really been a big part of the foundation for whatever success you may or may not argue I've had in my career. But that was big for me, just being on campus and feeling like, you know, the program was really designed for you. It had been there before you arrived. It was going to fit you and be a custom fit when you got on campus culturally and academically and challenge you to be the best that you could be. So that's the piece that I take away from my Hampton experience. And there were some other fun times that Rick referenced earlier.
I'm not even going to ask. The reporter in me, my spidey senses are tingling. I want to ask a follow-up question, but I'm going to go ahead and skip right over that. Okay, Rick, what's the importance of alumni support, specifically for HBCUs?
Well, you have to give back. And the thing about giving back is that someone had to give back for you. And understanding, you know, what Sashi said about the alumni coming back at homecoming, but it's also the fact that you're cultivating someone else in a historically black college. It got to, you know, I would, you know, between the, you know, the college coaches, you know, you're looking to get books. It's like some kids couldn't afford books. It's like, Coach, I need books, or I need to get something to eat, or things to that nature. You start making sure that these guys or the ladies, everybody behind you starts to, like Sashi said, it's like everybody wants to help. It's a beautiful thing that you have to give back because someone helped you. And that's why, you know, I wear my Hampton with pride, but I also wear my historically black colleges with pride. We may talk, Larry and I may talk smack, and I mean, being in professional basketball, we're gonna talk smack. Oh, you went the Cap, and you know, Stephanie, we talk smack all the time. But it's that love. It's like, you know what? You went through the same things that I went through to understand what life's about. You being in sport, you know, broadcasting in sports, Larry in coaching, Sashi in the managerial part. It's nice to see someone from of color in a position that you can say to a young man or a young woman, I can do that too. That's the thing. It's like even looking at Kamala Harris, this vice president of the United States of America, and I can't stand Howard, but I have to give him love.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Kamala Harris, Rick, because that was actually something I was going to get to later. So we'll circle back. But let's talk about the vice president. Larry, how impactful is that to see the vice president of the United States, basically the second most powerful person in the free world, is a graduate of an HBCU?
It's two things you can always say we never thought we would see. You know, one was, first Black president, we saw that. And now we're seeing, the first woman HBCU graduate be the vice president. It's just, I just feel tremendous pride, being an HBCU made person. I just feel the pride, it's nothing but joy for her.
And Sashi, when you see Kamala Harris, she just rose up. I mean, like super fast, from being a senator, now the vice president of the United States. What were your emotions when you knew that it was even a possibility that she would hold that office?
Yeah, it may be too much pride on my shoulder, but I've been on those campuses, and arguably, I mean, having gone to Harvard Law, where I think at least the perception outwardly of that school is that you have some of the brightest minds, and I know from my experience that some of the smartest, most talented people I've met were on Hampton's campus. For sure, the best professor I've had was on Hampton's campus, and so I think people I've always known. And if you go back and look at, folks that have been successful, venture capital, finance and Wall Street, their HBCUs have put out so much talent over the years that we've all known that. I think what Vice President Harris has kind of epitomizes now is the prominence, so that the rest of the country, the rest of the world now knows that these schools are putting out a tremendous amount of talent. These aren't schools that people choose just because they couldn't get in somewhere else. These are schools that are now being sought after. And I'm privileged to sit on the board of trustees at Hampton, know President Wayne Frederick over here at Howard, and we spend time together talking. But it's hard to get in these schools now. They have legacy folks that are trying to get in here, super talented young folks that are going to grow on to do awesome things. And hopefully at some point we'll have a president at HBCU. So tremendously proud of what Kamala represents for this community, and awesome that she's the first female in that office as well. Something that's long overdue. But also, I will say that, of course, this is just took too long to happen, but it's not because there weren't talented folks coming out of these schools.
Well said. Both you and Rick talked about supporting HBCUs. You're on the board. Rick always talks about giving back. So Larry, you now are an assistant coach at University of Maryland Eastern Shore, which is also an HBCU. Why is it important for you to continue to give back on this track?
Well, number one, I know what it can do for you. I know what it did for me. I know the opportunities it opened for me. And, like Rick said, if someone did it for me, so I have to do it for someone else. It's my duty. I've been, since I retired in 2008, I've also coached at Bowie State, which is another historically Black college. I also coached at Morgan State, and now I'm at Maryland Eastern Shore. So, it's my duty. I want someone to experience what I experienced, and what better way than just to give back.
Well, speaking of giving back, we've seen a tremendous increase in the amount of dollars that philanthropists have donated to HBCUs. And specifically, since we're approaching All-Star Weekend in the NBA and the Players Association have dedicated $2.5 million in funds and resources towards HBCUs. Why is that important that it comes from the NBA and the Players Association, Rick?
Hey, the league is 80% African American,
Mm-hmm.
so it's been long overdue. It's been long overdue. Probably when I got into this league, because when you look at it, we didn't see a lot of people of color representing in different offices. I mean, we have a guy here from Bowie State, Troy Weaver. We even also have Harold Ellis, Morgan State, a Morehouse graduate. So it's time to, this has been long overdue. The NBA has seen it, and they finally recognized it. I see where people like Chris Paul standing up and saying, okay, we have to support these issues of having historically Black colleges. A lot of them have suffered. So the thing is you don't want to leave this fabric of America left behind, because a lot of changes, the Title IX, things that kind of changed the trajectory of a lot of historically Black colleges that were really prominent, really big, and really good. But a lot of the players now that they opened up that new vacuum to take away from historically Black colleges is not necessarily there. But it's players there that really want to work hard, that say, they have aspirations, they have dreams. It could be football, it could be basketball, it could be track and field, but it's also the educational side of it, not just the scholarship athletes. It's more of what people are producing. And Sasha, you're right. It's about looking at being a judge, being a being a senator, just being a part of something that can show kids and people that are growing up that we have a chance and opportunity is right there. We just got to take it.
Larry, when you were playing in the NBA, did you ever think you'd see a time when the league itself, alongside the Players Association, would have such an initiative where they're wanting to donate millions of dollars towards HBCU efforts?
No, not during my time. I never thought I would see that, and it's good to see, And my thing is, let's keep it going. It shouldn't just be, just one time during Black History Month. It should be something that goes on. It should be a yearly thing, But during my time, I never thought that I would see this happening now.
It's been so interesting to me, and Rick, you brought it up, Chris Paul, when he was promoting, especially during the bubble, when all of the eyes of the world were on the NBA because there wasn't much else to look at, let's just be honest. Chris Paul was wearing and promoting lots of different schools, all HBCUs. Sashi, when you saw that happening, what did you think of it, firstly, and then the impact of that long term?
Yeah, I think it was a great use of the platform. It's something that Chris is passionate about, and every individual and every athlete has to make their own decision about whether they want to use their platform and how they want to use it. And I was pleased to see Chris and the consciousness that he has, which again comes from a lot of his family legacy at HBCU schools. And there in North Carolina, there's so many that he was familiar with personally growing up, and had family members attend and achieve great success. And I do applaud, Adam Silver and Mark Tatum and leadership at the league, and also, here at Monumental Sports and Entertainment here in Washington, Ted Leonsis and our group have made significant, commitments financially to students and students of color specifically, but also HBCUs. And we've got good relationships here at Howard in our backyard. Obviously, I'm on the board at Hampton. But every time an athlete steps up and does something, it magnifies it 100-fold from what we can do here, because the athletes do have their own brands and are so powerful. And so I think, as Larry said, I hope this is just the beginning. And while we applaud what's been done, we know these are great avenues to address a lot of the issues that have arisen over the last decade, particularly after last summer. HBCUs are uniquely positioned. They are institutions that have been around for hundreds of years now. And so I think they exist. And, sadly for the African-American community, we don't have a lot of other institutions to invest in that we know are going to be here. And I think HBCUs are uniquely positioned to address that kind of core educational foundation that we know is the key to so much of the success that we want to see, and try to reverse some of the trends socioeconomically that we know are impacting our community. And so, when I saw Chris do that, I actually dapped him up at All-Star last year in Chicago, just to say thanks for everything he had begun at that time, and certainly accentuated over the bubble period. So was really pleased to see that, and hopefully we'll see more of it as we move forward.
It was tremendous. Let's talk a little bit about how you can increase opportunities for students that graduate from HBCUs. And I don't just mean necessarily in sports, but yes, in athletics, but then also on the management side. So Rick, what do you think can be done to help these kids when they graduate, to get them in this pipeline that we all know starts early?
Well, you have to make sure that people are, as they say now, woke. And the fact of the matter, being woke is not necessarily put your money where your mouth is. I have to, I had to tip my hat, not to get off subject, but I had to tip my hat to Mackenzie Scott, Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, that, donating $1.7 billion to historically Black colleges, those things resonate. You put your money where your mouth is, not just because it's HBCUs, but it's the fact that this is an opportunity to show that people of color, being from a historically Black college, can perform at a high level. Look, we got Sasha in a position. We have Larry, coaching, and it's the fact that, yeah, the opportunities are not always there. Al Addles was the first Black coach from a historically Black college. And sorry for my dogs in the background, but he was one of the first. We look at these men where you say, okay, well, you plan for a Doc Rivers to win a championship, and you go, wow. It's not that it's a person of color that can achieve a goal and not necessarily feel like, they're on a fair playing field. That's what you want to be on. You want to be on a playing field and say, don't judge me for my color. Judge me for what I can do and how I can perform.
So well said. Larry, let's focus on the sports part of it, okay? Because you and Rick both did this. You came from an HBCU. You, Larry, were unheralded, but as I mentioned, ended up making the rookie team in the NBA. So what can we do to help the athletes specifically at HBCUs who would like to continue their playing careers into the professional ranks?
Well, for me, it's part of the reason why I got into coaching, so I can help these guys to kind of like navigate, what that experience and will be like, and what are the necessary steps and things that they're going to have to do to accomplish those dreams. So for me, it starts every day by just, preaching to these guys and staying on them about every little thing, because, making it from HBCU is it's not an easy task, to do. It's something that is very hard. And, I just try to preach to these guys each and every day, the discipline, the hard work and all the things that they're going to have to do to accomplish these goals. And, like I said, it's one of the reasons why I got into coaching, so I can be kind of like hands-on, with these guys each and every day.
Well, all of those things that you said are going to be so instrumental in them finding success, even if it's not on the court. I mean, all of those life lessons are going to help them find success in the office buildings too. So Sashi, what can we do to help these students when they graduate be ready to take advantage of any opportunities? Or is there a way that we can provide these opportunities, start to give them some exposure earlier so that they can succeed off the court?
Yeah, I think you hit it, and I think it's both parts. I think the preparedness and making sure that as you get early in school, not only are you knocking it out in the classroom, but you have some folks that are helping speak to you, whether that's alumni or folks that are at league offices or teams, or have had that experience that can talk to young students about what they'll need to be successful if they want to choose to pursue a career in professional sports, just like any career. Then the second piece of it is I think we do have to be very open-minded and start to reach back and make sure that we are looking for students who come from backgrounds, Asian, Latinx, to some degree in particular areas of our industry, African American as well, that have a hard time, women, breaking some of these barriers, and from certain schools as well. And you know, there's a lot of great energy right now in this space, and I think you want to put good processes and systems to make sure in place to make sure that you're not doing this on an ad hoc basis, because very quickly in a year or two the energy will be gone. And I think what you want to do is make sure that you've got some programs in place that you've reached out and made connections, as we have, to Howard and Hampton and some of the other schools out there, so that we are creating a pipeline and eliminating a lot of the obstacles that have traditionally been in place for kids graduating from backgrounds that don't look like most of the folks that have filled these jobs.
That's a great point. Go ahead, Rick.
And to follow up on that, Sasha, the thing that impresses me in being, you know, you're there in Washington, Larry, been on the Bullets and the Wizards or whatever, whichever platform you're looking at. I got to give it to the Washington Bullets and the Wizards. I got to give it to them. You got people like Earl of Pearl Monroe that was drafted by the Baltimore Bullets back in the day. You got myself. You got Joe Pace from Coppin State. You got Larry Stewart. It was like I was looking at just going over my history, and you're going like, man, they were always a step ahead looking into historically Black colleges in the area to say, you know what, this guy can play in this league if he walks right. And to follow up with Larry, being a coach, it's about teaching the young student athlete that you're representing a culture. Your representation is what this school is based on. It's not like we're here to party, we're here to we're hanging out. No, you got to respect what people have done for you to bring you forward. So with Sashi being there as part of the Wizards, that's like, wow, their organization was doing things way before we see now what's happening in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great point. Great point. So let's talk a little bit about when you look back on your years, when you were attending the HBCU and you were an undergraduate student, what sorts of things did you take away from those experiences that you still hold close to you now and that help you during your professional career? Let's start with you, Larry.
Oh, sorry.
Wow, that's a good question there. I guess it just starts with the respect level, you know. For me, I became a lot more respectful at college. You know, it was more a lot of yes, ma'am, you know, this, you know, no sir, no sir. So for me, that's what I took out of that. You know, I became way more respectful. I became, I would say, more of a family guy. Those are the things the two most important things I say I take out of my experience.
How about you, Rick?
For me, was a work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
It was always the chip on your shoulder where you say, well, he went to a small school, he couldn't do it, he can't do this, they can't do that. Being Black or whatever, you know, African American, you know, it's always, you had to outwork everybody. So for me to be in the NBA and to make it as long as I did and made it a career, it's my work ethic. And until this day, I continue that work ethic because I want to be the best at whatever I do. And I'm not pigeonholing myself to this one particular venue. I know that I am educated enough to do other things other than just say, oh, he's just a basketball player. No, I am an educated Black man, a double-edged sword that I can do anything I want.
Yes,
Great.
and I would have to second that too, hard work, because it would be no way I would have made it. I would never have made it in the NBA without the hard work. So that most definitely holds true for me too.
I love the sentiment. Sashi, what about you? What lessons have you taken with you?
And a lot of those honest conversations with professors and administrators that said, you know, when you get out here, this is what life and professional work is going to be like, and that's unique coming out from a Black school. I think the second thing for me is the sense of community and how important that was. That I left campus with 2,000 other fellow alumni who were going out into the world in tens of thousands, and not other hundreds of thousands of Hamptonians that I knew were out there also and had been successful, and that I could be as well. But that I always had the fallback of the community of folks that I went to school with. And as Rick said, you leave, when you combine those two things, you leave with a sense of like, I need to step up and represent, my school and what this community is about. And so I think those are the things that I left, kind of a sense of purpose, also that community, but then also, some real great and pertinent, advice on what life would be like as I left college. So that those were three tremendous assets I took with me.
So while we have you all here, I have a question that I often analyze this when I'm talking to people about my HBCU experiences. What has been a common misconception when you speak to people who have not had the experience, no matter their race, if they did not attend an HBCU and they talk to you about your time as an undergraduate, what are some misconceptions that you've come across that you've had to straighten out, if you will? Rick, start with you.
The misconception is that you're not smart enough. And that's the thing about going to, they say, oh, you're going to a black college. It's lower class. It was like, for me, coming out of high school, it was a lot of players that were better than me. Oh, I'm going to UConn. I'm going to University of Massachusetts. I'm doing this. But I went to Hampton, and it was like, oh, you went somewhere where you ain't never going to be seen or whatever as a basketball player. My thing was I wanted an education. It's like, okay, if my dream was to be in the NBA, then, I did it the right way. And if I had to do it again, I would do it again all over. So the misconception is that you can be just as good as anybody at a big school if you go to a small school, because a smaller school is going to give you the fabric and the foundation, that family atmosphere, but where everybody's rooting for you, not just, he's so-and-so and you walk around and chip on your shoulder, oh, he's going to be big time. No. Being at Hampton, I was humbled every day. It was going over to the business class. They didn't know that I was Rick Mahorn, the basketball player. They knew me as Derek Mahorn, which is my real name. But they knew me as Derek Mahorn. They thought I had a twin brother. That's how crazy it was at Hampton. So, and I'm just saying, I will go to class and not saying that I didn't. I went to class and I did my work. Nobody was doing it for me. So I had to do the studying, the work study to make a little extra change so I can, have a little something. But it was just the fact that fabric, going to the misconception is that you have to work. You have to work in order to be the best you can be.
Yep. Larry, what do you think? What have you come across?
Yeah, Rick hit it all, hit it on the head. But most misconception is that you are lesser. That like you say, you're not as smart. And then if you go into the athletic side, you're not as good. So those are the things that we have to overcome. And as we sit here today and see the things that are starting to change, hopefully things will get better. Well, things are going to get better, and they're looking like we're heading in the right direction.
Yes, I totally agree. Sashi, what about you? What kind of misconceptions have you come across?
I'd certainly repeat what they said. I think the other thing is just how diverse the experience is when you get on campus. I mean, there are kids from all over the country, different countries coming into your school now. And so, it's not like there's a Black experience, so to speak, right? Or a Black student. But the second thing is, the quality of the education, I think that people just misconceive and view kind of is certainly I had. When I went to high school, I shared with my counselor what schools I was looking at, and she advised me not to look at a Black school for the reasons that I think the perception of them were that you wouldn't have gotten a good education or couldn't get into a better school. And still, because I had the family legacy and the support of my parents, was able to overcome that. But I think that's the main thing. I mean, to this day, Hampton and Howard and Xavier and these schools are putting out, I mean, if you look at where the Black doctors, the Black lawyers in this country are coming from, they're coming from these schools. And now you're starting to see folks in private equity and venture capital and technology and financial services come out of these schools as well, as they have evolved and become more sophisticated. So I think that's the main thing. But I'm always happy to state the facts, and I won't go more over them than I already have. But I think that's certainly the misperception of the school, is that just the amazing amount of talent and success that's being cultivated out.
I love all of that. And I totally agree with everything that the three of you said. But I want to kind of dive into that a little bit more, Sashi, about the diversity of the HBCU experience, because people do tend to group the demographics together. They feel like it's a monolithic experience. Often they do the same thing in African American society as well, but specifically for HBCUs, I remember we had Caucasian athletes, we had Asian athletes, we had international students that were on campus, some athletes, some not. People have no idea. So just dive into that a little deeper about how diverse the HBCU experience is. Sashi.
Yeah, I think we all know, the thing that we battle with is that race can be such a barrier to such, I think, more substantive exploration of ourselves and what we bring to the table. And that's what we've been trying to overcome here for centuries. And so not only do you have diversity in terms of gender and ethnicity and nationality and religion on campus of these schools, but also do really end up with folks from very different socioeconomic backgrounds, and they bring very different experience. You have kids that were as rich as any kids that I had met, going to school on campus, and some from, growing up and sharing a 2-bedroom house with 3 or 4 brothers and sisters. And to be able to relate to all those people at the same time in campus and have a shared experience was powerful, just as it is in any school. And there's no right or wrong answer to what the right location for your education is, whether that's an HBCU or a majority, school as well. But certainly I think the HBCU provides a richer, more complex culture and environment to educate and experience your formative years, kind of when you're becoming you, so to speak, in your late teens and early 20s, and shaping so much of what you're going to be. And I do think that diverse experience and backgrounds, as you said, nationalities and ethnicities on those campuses is unique, at the same time catering to what's been a historically Black environment and culture. So very rich, and I took a lot away from it.
Larry, you talked about how it felt like family and how you became a more respectful man with your time at Coppin State. Tell us a little bit about the diversity on campus and how that impacted your growth and development as a human.
Oh yeah, it helped me out tremendously because I was grew up fairly around just African Americans. Growing up in North Philadelphia, I just was surrounded by my culture. I didn't spend much time around anyone else besides African Americans. So going to Coppin and seeing different people and interacting with different races and nationalities and people from all over the world, it was just a great experience. It taught me how to deal with different types of people. It helped me along when I had to go play in Spain. It helped me when I played in Turkey. It helped me when I played in Greece. I was able to go to those places and survive. And I think all of that Coppin helped prepare me for those times.
Rick, how about you at Hampton? I always joke with you because you guys might be the only HBCU with a sailing team. So I know that you guys had a lot of diversity on your campus.
I'm much older than the guys that are on here. So the diversity, we would see people off the yard coming to get an education. And you would see, a lot of diversity that way until, you learn to deal with your own culture. I learned how to deal with my own culture to prepare myself with the diverse culture outside of where my surroundings. I went to all Black high school. I went to all Black college. And then going into the world of the NBA, I had to learn how to survive. And that was, to me, was working hard, but how to survive and be more respectful of everybody's culture, not looking at someone and all of a sudden analyzing them and saying, well, that's what I read about. That's what would happen. But it was more like, I'm old. But when I see that around Hampton area, if I was off the yard, I knew I was off the yard because they would kind of tell you you're off the yard. But the diversity of seeing people coming to get an education, that taught me that Hampton was good as far as getting an education. I mean, we weren't known for our sports back then. We were known for, the books, education for life. That was the motto. But when sports started to interject in there, it made me be more diverse. I can understand when I played in Italy for that 1 year and coming back to the NBA, just dealing with people, I learned how to grasp that. That helped me out tremendously.
Excellent. Gentlemen, I appreciate your time. This has been such a joy to discuss your experiences. Hopefully I didn't forget anything that you wanted to touch upon, but we appreciate it and we look forward to the next time we get to chat.